And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. Now these prophetic words spoken by Christ are being fulfilled right now, leading up to the 2020 presidential election. And they will continue to be fulfilled until the close of time. Right now, America is polarized along many lines such as race, social issues, politics, and even the economy. Society is fractured. People are volatile, and all the unrest is placing us on the brink of a civil war. With the presidential election on November 3rd as the focal point, there is much uncertainty about what will happen leading up to it and what will transpire after the results are in. So the question we must ask is, what does this all mean, and does the Bible have anything to say concerning it?
The Civil War began in 1861 as a result of decades of rising tension in America. It was the costliest and deadliest war ever fought on American soil, with 620,000 of 2.4 million soldiers killed. Slavery, states' rights, the economy, and the election of Abraham Lincoln were four main factors that instigated the Civil War. Lincoln's election was the climactic event that caused 7 southern states to secede and form the Confederate States of America. Not long after, the first shot was fired and the Civil War began. Could the events that triggered the Civil War of 1861 be the same events that are leading America to engage in another deadly conflict?
Leading up to the Civil War, the country was divided into states permitting slavery and states prohibiting it. Politicians debated the question of whether slavery would be legal in the Western territories. Since 1865, slavery has been abolished, but racism and hatred are evils that still exist in America today and will continue until the end of time. However, there are those who choose to highlight these issues and use them as points of controversy in every facet of American society. Since the death of Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and other people of color by the hands of police officers, the Black Lives Matter movement, as well as other kindred movements, have been protesting, rioting, and calling for the funding of police. Militias around the country are gaining the spotlight, some to oppose police brutality, and others who swear to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. If necessary, both sides seem ready to fight.
Or if you tell me something that's not going to satisfy what these people want, I'm going to bring my people in, just to emphasize that we really want the truth. You owe an explanation to black people, period.
Now he says if answers aren't provided in the next 4 weeks, they may come back to town.
Do I believe they can do it in 4 weeks when it normally takes 8 weeks? Well, let's just say I wouldn't want to be in their shoes if I didn't.
Tensions boiling over as armed men faced off with counter-demonstrators in the city of Stone Mountain. The initial rally, planned by a group with ties to white supremacists, was to defend a granite carving of Confederate leaders at a nearby park. But as hundreds packed the streets, counter-demonstrators appeared to burn a Confederate flag held by right-wing activists. Police and the Georgia National Guard moving in to break up the crowds. In Kalamazoo, Michigan, a peaceful counter-protest turning violent as marchers clashed with the alt-right group the Proud Boys, an organization designated as a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center.
From criminal justice to education, healthcare, employment, community, and housing opportunities, many people argue that the entire system of America encourages the inequality of people of color. Others argue that people of color are the ones who are hindering themselves from progressing.
victimhood has become almost a mental plague upon Black America in particular, because that word racism is being so overused that society is becoming desensitized to it, and we actually can't even recognize it when it actually exists. We think everything is racist. Things that used to be normal conflicts between human beings, getting cut off while you're driving, having a bad correspondence in a grocery store, you should just brush it off, shrug it off, and move on with your day. Now people are crying and making videos and pleading on Facebook to say, look what I experienced today. I mean, it's sad for her, but I think it also says, as you mentioned earlier, it's something bigger that's happening in culture that needs to be addressed before it goes too far.
Prophesying of these things, Matthew 24 tells us that what we are seeing now is only the beginning. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows.
History.com reports that in the mid-19th century, while the United States was experiencing an era of tremendous growth, a fundamental economic difference existed between the country's northern and southern regions. The difference between them was how the overall economy should be run. Now, the northern states were well established in manufacturing and industry, and their growing abolitionist sentiments threatened the existence of slavery, which was the backbone of the economy in the South. Now, in contrast, America's economy today has experienced a major decline, especially since the coronavirus pandemic. But the different views from politicians on how to solve the economy's issues are still causing discord.
President Trump, you say we are in a V-shaped recovery. Vice President Biden, you say it's more of a K-shape. What difference does that mean to the American people in terms of the economy? President Trump, in this segment, you go first.
So we built the greatest economy in history. We closed it down because of the China plague, psychologically to do. He didn't think we should close it down, and he was wrong. But what happened is we closed it down, and now we're reopening, and we're doing record business. We had 10.4 million people in a 4-month period that we've put back into the workforce. That's a record the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And he wants to close down he will shut it down again. He will destroy this country.
What's the difference?
The difference is millionaires and billionaires like him in the middle of the COVID crisis have done very well. Billionaires have made another $300 billion. But you folks at home, you folks living in Scranton and Claymont and all the small towns and working class towns in America, how well are you doing? The fact is that he has, in fact, worked on this in a way that he's going to be the first president of the United States to leave office having fewer jobs in his administration than when he became president. Fewer jobs than when he became president. First one in American history. They've done nothing to help small businesses. Nothing.
To address the economy, politicians realize that they also have to address the COVID-19 pandemic, which is crippling the nation. Economic hardships resulting in loss of jobs and government benefits for many people have caused families to go hungry.
Another issue surrounding the Civil War was the issue of states' rights. Who should have more political power, the federal government or individual states? This debate was one issue that led to the secession of the Confederate States. The same principle is happening today, where individuals want to have their own autonomy because they do not trust the government to ensure their safety and promote their best interests. A prime example of this is when we look at what took place in Seattle, Washington, with the Capitol Hill autonomous zones, as well as in Atlanta, Georgia, when 19 Black families purchased 96 acres of land to create a safe haven for Black people.
My name's Noah. This is my first day manning the daytime barricade. I ran the nighttime barricade. We are not at all really like how people are saying. We don't stop anyone from coming in. We don't, pat people down. We just let people come in and just be who they want to be.
We are not doing anything illegal. We are protesters, and so every day we have to get up and correct what someone did wrong or try to establish or tagged all over the place with the headlines that don't make sense.
Violence has now besieged the area known as CHOP, and it is no longer the summer of love, it's a summer of chaos. And early this morning, that violence was raw and real, where one of our community members lost their life, and police are still not allowed into that area, and we're prevented to providing that police service to the area to locate victims and or render aid.
Mike,
very troubling what's going on.
So you're saying we've got one person killed, potentially others injured. We don't know. We don't know what the incident was. But the Seattle Police Department cannot go in and has not confirmed.
That is correct.
Police are making a push right here to get through the chop zone. It is happening right before our eyes here. Like I said a minute ago, pepper spray deployed just a few minutes ago against a couple of those protesters that were not leaving. This is the push from Seattle police to reclaim CHOP.
Furthermore, the response of certain states to mandate wearing masks has sparked outrage amongst citizens who oppose it.
Some are now arguing those masks infringe on their rights. In fact, one city councilor using George Floyd's words, "I can't breathe," while he was talking about masks. Tonight he's now apologizing, calling it insensitive. Here's Victor Akendo.
With the virus spreading like wildfire, a battle is raging over one of the key tools used to fight it, face masks. Starting today in Palm Beach County, Florida, masks are mandatory, but the backlash was swift.
The fact of the matter is, it's our bodies, it's our choice whether we're going to wear them, not wear them. You guys are overstepping your boundaries 100%.
We will get together and do a citizen's arrest on every single human being that goes against the freedom of choice, okay? You cannot mandate, you literally cannot mandate somebody to wear a mask knowing that that mask is killing people. It literally is killing people. And we the people are waking up, and we know what citizen's arrest is, because citizen's arrests are already happening. Okay? And every single one of you that are obeying the devil's laws are going to be arrested. And you, doctor, are going to be arrested for crimes against humanity. Every single one of you.
Although President Trump has not mandated the wearing of masks, Joe Biden has stated that if he wins this upcoming election, he will require it, even while outdoors.
If you became president tomorrow, what would you do differently regarding the pandemic and getting these surging cases now under control?
I would go back to making sure that everybody had masks, that you had PPE lined up. We have been making sure we stockpile all the things that we need that we don't have now. The one thing we do know, these masks make a gigantic difference. I would insist that everybody on public be wearing that mask. Anyone to reopen would have to make sure that they walked into a business that had masks.
Couldn't you use your federal leverage to mandate that, though?
Yes.
And would you?
Yes, I would. From an executive standpoint, yes, I would.
So you would, in effect, mandate the wearing of masks?
I would do everything on my possible to make it required that people had to wear masks in public.
The election of Abraham Lincoln as the 16th President of the United States was the last straw which catapulted America into a civil war. Lincoln was an abolitionist, and his ideals and policies threatened the economy of the South. So today, as the 2020 presidential election nears between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, Americans are split over their policies and are also gearing up for war. Democrats fear that if Biden wins this election, there will not be a peaceful transfer of power.
With the election 40 days away, President Trump is refusing to commit to a peaceful transfer of power if he loses.
Will you commit to making sure that there is a peaceful transferal of power after the election?
Well, we're going to have to see what happens. You know that I've been complaining very strongly about the ballots, and the ballots are a disaster.
The president ramping up his claims without evidence that a surge in mail-in ballots will produce widespread fraud. The reporter emphasizing how the country is already bitterly divided.
I understand that, but people are rioting. Do you commit to making sure that there's a peaceful transferal of power?
We want to get rid of the ballots, and we'll have a very peaceful. There won't be a transfer, frankly. There'll be a continuation.
We turn to politics now. Joe Biden, in a new phase of his campaign, traveled to an old steel mill in Pittsburgh where he spoke out forcefully against looting, rioting, and President Trump, and said the president can't stop the violence because he's part of the problem. Here's ABC's Terry Moran.
Joe Biden in Pittsburgh in a rare campaign stop and a blistering speech blasting President Trump for stoking violence and division in America for his own political gain.
Fires are burning and we have a president who fans the flames rather than fighting the flames. He can't stop the violence because for years he's fomented it.
Trump believes that if Biden wins, there will be more anarchy. And Biden believes that if Trump wins, there will be more riots.
If Biden wins, China wins. If Biden wins, the mob wins. If Biden wins, the rioters, anarchists, arsonists, and flag burners win. But I wouldn't worry about it because he's not winning. I don't think he's winning. At no time before has there been a clearer choice between two parties, two visions, two philosophies, and two agendas for the future. There's never been a vision like this. You have Sleepy Joe and you have Trump.
I don't know if a lot of y'all understand this or not, but come November, there's a war coming. Whoever wins, and it's down to two. We already know this. Third party, they don't even matter. It's down to two. One or the other is going to win. As a certain supporter, we know which one's going to win. Trump 2020. But there's a thing about it. The reason why I say there's a war coming is because if Trump wins, Black Lives Matter and all them other Antifa are going to try to start a war. We ready, don't worry, we ready. Us rednecks and stuff, we ready for y'all. But if Biden wins, we coming, and we coming strong.
I don't follow the news, and I have my facts correctly. I'm also a Proud Boy, if you guys understand who they are.
People don't understand. Proud Boys, it's a very inclusive, multiracial organization.
We're not brawlers, but we're there. Like we're just like the Marines. We're the first to come in when there's something happening.
He said, "Stand back and stand by." What did you take that to mean?
Basically, he says, "Guys, wait for my orders," and that's exactly what we're waiting for.
Yeah. So you're not violent.
If Trump doesn't get reelected, okay, there's going to be a riot. If he doesn't get reelected, this is when you're going to see civil war. We also follow Q. We have our chain of commands that gave us our orders. My recommendation to anyone, stock up on ammo.
I hope that Nancy's right, that they win the Senate, the House, and the presidency, because in that way, I won't be murdered. Because if Biden loses, I'm being told that there will be blood everywhere. There will be riots. There will be demonstrations. People like me will be targeted. Because we have to understand, and we have to understand and predict these consequences in reality. I'm not joking. The Dems and the media have portrayed this election as good versus evil. It's actually been said that way on this show, which means that if Trump wins, if Nancy is wrong, it's almost required that the good take to the streets and punish the evil, because this is the terminology that's being used by the media, talking heads, entertainers, anchors, House and Senate Democrat leaders. We've been using demonic language to marginalize half the country, and they are going to get hurt if Trump wins. I will put my life savings on that, and we have to start thinking about that now.
So if you take one thing from my words tonight, it is this. If you think things cannot possibly get worse, trust me, they can and they will if we don't make a change in this election. If we have any hope of ending this chaos, we have got to vote for Joe Biden like our lives depend on it.
What are some signs which show us that a civil war could be on the horizon? Guns have been flying off the shelves at a record rate. Ammunition is practically sold out in stores and online, as many people seek to arm themselves, fearing for their safety.
One of the more sinister sights, queues of customers lining up to panic buy weapons, fearing civil unrest and riots.
Forget toilet paper,
In America today, they're lining up for firepower.
We're just concerned that people might be getting a little crazy.
Anthony Gordon among dozens waiting for hours outside this gun store in Los Angeles, preparing to protect themselves in the event of civil unrest.
Shooter Bill Ivory says he fears mayhem when, as he has no doubt will happen, Trump wins.
I just think the liberal left will become unhinged. I look for Antifa and all of those folks just to break loose, especially if it's a really humiliating, overwhelming trouncing that Biden takes.
As more Americans find themselves sinking under the fear of the unknown, millions have sought safety in the palm of their hands.
It started with COVID, and now it's the riots.
Pandemic panic has triggered a rush on gun purchases since the beginning of the year, and data shows it's not gun aficionados looking to arm themselves. 40% of gun sales were to first-time buyers. Roughly 14 million background checks were conducted between March and June. June alone saw a 136% increase from the previous year. These are the highest numbers in the FBI's background check program 22-year history. The current health crisis and national protests are not the only reason for the increase. The looming election has also sparked fears among gun owners that new gun controls could be on the horizon. A similar run on guns happened just before the election of Barack Obama.
People are afraid to leave their homes as they witness others being attacked and even killed over their political views.
Robert Youngblood was in a Florida restaurant wearing his Make America Great Again hat when surveillance video shows a man walking behind Youngblood and put what he says was a balled-up wet paper towel on the brim of his hat.
And I hear him yelling and screaming at the top of his voice.
Youngblood says he was attacked for wearing his MAGA hat, another example of politics coming to a boiling point in public.
The evening turned deadly when a man standing in front of this parking garage was shot. Not much is known publicly about what led to this moment, but the victim has been linked to a pro-Trump group.
And here in Siouxland, people expressing their political aspirations through colorful campaign signs placed prominently around the city. But signs like this one can also be easy targets for those with differing opinions. This security video from a barbershop in Leeds showing a young woman getting out of a car, taking a sign in support of President Trump, and driving away. The shop's owner, Dwayne Harvey, says he's bothered by what he sees in the video.
I was kind of shocked and taken away by it.
Adding it's not the first time he's been impacted for putting up a sign.
Last year, somebody broke out my window at the barbershop, and then that weekend they egged my place.
Fearing another coronavirus wave and what may result after the election, individuals and grocery stores are stockpiling food, supplies, and equipment to be prepared in case of an emergency. To this day, certain items such as paper products are still being rationed.
This probably would sustain us for 6 months.
She's a bathroom designer by trade, a grandmother, and a Biden supporter, one of millions of Americans getting ready.
We have respirators, we have suits for chemicals.
For anything.
You actually got stuck there for chemical weapons attack.
In case.
What she won't show us on camera is an extraordinary array of guns.
We have an arsenal of guns and ammunition for protection.
Leanne believes America is already in a low-level civil war, which the coming election is unlikely to ease.
Hey, I wanted to jump on here today and just show you what I am doing to get prepared for what I see as trouble brewing on the horizon. I really believe it. I think that with all the schools going back in session, I believe that COVID cases are going to go up, but not just that, with the election coming up, I think it's going to be crazy. I think our world is going to get absolutely crazy, mostly right here in America. I've never seen such division and hate just over political parties. I want to show you what I'm doing for my family, how I'm prepping, food and different items that I'm using, and I'm telling you, get started now. Do not wait until October, November, and then decide to start. Get started now. That way you're not spending a ton of money. You just do a little at a time. When you're at the stores, pick up a little bit of extra. It's going to pay off. You're going to use it anyway.
Others who see the events that are transpiring are moving their families out of the cities where they won't be largely affected by the unrest, disaster, and mayhem. Luke 21 and verse 26 describes men's emotions as they forebode the 2020 presidential election. Men's hearts failing them for fear and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken.
And Christ's prophetic words are echoed down through the ages, in which he says, "And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet." As we see these events unfolding right before our very eyes, God's desire is not for us to be afraid of the future, but to have the certainty and assurance that as we put our faith in him, we can rest in his love. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casteth out fear, because fear hath torment. He that feareth is not made perfect in love.
As we saw, the events that led to the Civil War in 1861 may also lead to another civil war today. The spirit of hatred, division, and war did not start here on earth, but it began in heaven. Lucifer, who became Satan, argued that the angels should have individual rights to act in accordance with their own conscience and not be held as slaves to God's government. He rebelled against God's economy, whose foundation is the law of God and the worship of Jesus Christ, his Son. Now, after gaining supporters and splitting the tranquil atmosphere of heaven into two sides, Satan led all of heaven's host to choose a leader in an election. Would they choose Satan or would they choose Jesus? Everyone then made their decision. Those who chose Satan were kicked out of heaven and have made their way down to earth. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time.
Now all of us must pick a side. All of mankind is a part of this election, and who we choose as our leader will have eternal consequences. Under inspiration, the patriarch Joshua tells us with whom to cast our vote. Choose you this day whom ye will serve, but as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Today I choose Jesus. What will be your choice?